Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm joined by William Schutte, Chief Executive at Chainwave Tech, a team helping founders and small businesses turn ideas into working apps fast, even if they don't have a tech team. They've also recently launched SmartMove, a free verification tool aimed at flagging dodgy online stores in seconds, a timely move as trust online keeps getting harder. William, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Lawrence. Appreciate the opportunity.
Could you provide us with a little bit more context around Chainwave Tech, what it is that you guys do? What are your areas of operations?
Okay, well, Chainwave was founded about 18 months ago, and it started off when I got scammed online and realized that there was very little recourse once you actually transact online and find yourself at the mercy of whatever scam you fell victim to. We then entered a period where we thought that let's maybe create a solution for this problem. We went the traditional route of trying to come up with all the different ways to speak to investors, get funding, build the software, and actually we realized that that was a very cumbersome and very long-winded approach. We stumbled upon low-code and no-code tools. We learned fast. We enjoyed that experience, and we started building usable tech very quickly. So much so that when some of our friends and other founders and other startups saw what we were doing, they engaged with us and asked if we could do the same for them, do similar small projects. And that's basically where it started. So we've been working with founders and startups creating, I want to say MVP, but for us, a MVP is actually a piece of tech that's market ready. MVP for traction. That's how we put it. But I mean, we like to get it as close to market ready with a small tweak. So we put in a lot of attention to detail to actually get it to as close to where it needs to be, so that the company or the founder can use it quickly and fast at a relatively low budget.
Quite an interesting starting point to where you are now. I mean, what would you say is the core problem beyond building an app fast that you see Chainwave uniquely positioned to solve?
Well, I think what we have been able to do is we've been able to establish a very, very fast learning curve when it comes to, I think, a really fast moving low-code and no-code tech environment. The tools are literally changing on a daily basis. New tools are being launched daily. And myself and my partner, Richard, we've found a particular niche in leveraging those tools to their maximum to get, I think, the maximum result for smaller builds or for quick builds. And the quick builds are usually for traction with founders that sit with the same problem, that they want to try and get some sort of funding or investment, but they don't have traction. So the traditional route is a very, very, very big numbers game in terms of, are you going to get assistance or are you not going to get assistance? Every step or every step of the ladder that you take gets you a little bit better position on that ratio scale. So getting traction actually does quite a lot for a founder or for a startup to pitch themselves to investors. So that's I think where we've really positioned ourselves, is to get you there quick and fast with a usable piece of tech. That is what you would hope it to be, to solve your problem in the way that you envision it. That's, I think, our core function at the moment. But in addition to that, we do automations, we do workflow analysis, and then from small automations to complete workflow automations for larger organizations. So we look at the scale again from a founder or startup that's already maybe got an operation in place that doesn't necessarily need a SaaS or a software solution, but maybe just needs automation because of the size of their team, up to larger companies that have reached the limit of, I think, traditional tech and needs the insights, but again, a through flow from start to finish to actually analyze different departments into each other to establish or to identify opportunities that they're possibly not seeing based on institutional ways of doing business.
And over the past 18 months, are there any product avenues that you had to say no to in order to remain focused?
Very much. I think we we as founders and at startups, we get distracted by shiny things often, and I mean it's very easy to chase shiny things. And when you have a core function or a let's call it a core project, it's very easy when the project gets hard to start looking at easier wins, quicker wins, alternative opportunities that can almost like scratch that itch of keeping busy but moving the needle forward at the same time. So I think what we've had to do is we have really been, I think, quite specific on keeping to our focus in who we are and what we want to do. And in the process, we've given up some opportunities to work with, I think, partners and startups that wanted a much larger, I think, piece of our attention that would have taken up too much of our time and our capacity to actually get involved with them because of the size of our team. So again, sticking to smaller opportunities, quicker wins, working with more people rather than being a larger partner or a technical partner to an organization that's going to take a lot of your resources in the given time available.
Now, there's always a bit of a tension between delivering fast for your clients versus preserving long-term technical integrity. How do you guys balance that tension?
It is a bit of a difficult one because looking at MVP, the client or the founder is usually more driven by the result, and they're not really too concerned about how you get the result and whether or not the result is robust. But I think that's where we have put ourselves to the test, and where we've given ourselves the necessary targets to say that, if we bring something out, it is not just for the result, it is robust. It gets backed up, not with just one or two back-end tools, but it's usually quite robust, and the process is very achievable, and the process is repeatable. So we try in our MVP production and in all of our automations, we put the focus on repeatability, because for us, what is very important is once it's in place, it needs to be hands-off. You don't want to have to come back every now and again to fix something that's broken or something that's not working. I think, again, we don't have the capacity, and founders and startups don't have the capacity to keep on looking at, engaging with and fixing anything that's broken, but still yields a result sometimes. So for us, it's very important to make sure that the pieces of software and tech that we and the automations are very stable.
Walk me through a typical client engagement for you guys from pitch to first usable demo. What does that process look like?
But normally where we start is we start with the magic wand theory. Is, if you had a magic wand, what would you like to see the outcome be? And once we, I think, understand what is the vision in the mind or in the mind's eye of the person or the company or the founder that we're speaking to, we start walking it back into, what in essence are functions and what in essence are features. So once we've got the core idea or the core vision, we start walking it back, identify what the core function is, and identify what the nice to have functions are, and then looking at what features could and could not fit into that particular workflow. And then we basically start with what can we build to achieve the outcome without turning it into a very, very long sectional system that kind of touches on everything but doesn't do it well. That's how we try to save time. So if we can get the vision into place with a stable and a reliable output, we can always build onto that, as the features are required, or, as more functions become necessary through testing or through feedback. But I think for us, it's very easy to build a massive back-end platform that can cater for everything, but that's very time consuming and often a big waste of time. So in our process, we do manage to, I think, take the time, listen to what's required, really understand the vision, the purpose, and the outcome that will give the software traction. And we focus on that primarily. It's so common that, once you hit the primary objective, that the next questions come in is, can we add this feature? Can we look at that function? And all of that, I think we try and strip out in the beginning so that we don't get bogged down by building nice to haves when the core function hasn't been tested.
And are there any steps in that process that you find are most vulnerable to delays?
I think the time that we often assume, or the time that we allocate to a particular project, is often not enough. I think it's one of the shortcomings that we have is, we often assume we can execute faster than what we can actually execute. But we've learned over time to build in a lot more time for ourselves to get to where we want to be. But at the same time, we've learned by allocating too much time to unnecessary parts of projects. So yes, I think the biggest delay for us is if we start getting bogged down by the nice to have, because as developers, we often think to ourselves, "Ooh, what if we add this in, and this could work well here, or this could give us a bit of a spin-off feature later." And that's often where your time gets lost. But and we have learned, if you focus on the primary function and the core, you tend to get to your targets and your deliverables as expected, but it didn't start like that.
And along the journey, again, just focusing on that sort of typical client engagement, are there any steps in that process that you've managed to automate?
We don't have much, I think, automated steps within our organization. At the moment, we work with a few people, we stay hands-on, we stay personal. Automations for everyday tasks, I mean, that's kind of like par for the course, your simple, basic administrative automations. But I think when it comes to engaging with clients, client feedback, client communication, we stay personal with that for now.
And so you mentioned how crucial it is to define, what are primary features versus nice to haves. How do you go about managing scope creep or changing requirements mid-project?
We use a system. I think it's a known industry system, which is just the rule of one. When we use the rule of one, we do define what we're going to build quite accurately with the involvement of the client. And then what we like to do, if it's possible, is we work with the client on a weekly basis. So we don't build and then get back to the client and then look at what we did and explain what we did and then take instructions or take guidance and then go back and build. So what we try and do is from day one, we try to make the client part of the build, get them involved for 2 to 3 hours a week while we build, show them what we're doing, how we're doing it, get their input so that we, again, don't go onto unnecessary steps, because especially on the front end, it's very, very easy to spend a lot of time building a front end that was not part of the client's vision. So we really try to engage the client as much as possible, obviously with taking into consideration their time constraints. So for us is ideal is to spend 2, 3, 4 hours a week with a client while we build, and that keeps us true, and it also shows them, I think, what is and what isn't possible, so that they don't make the assumption that you can just quickly make some changes or quickly add some features if they understand how the process fits together.
I think there must surely be some cases where clients have come to you and they don't really know what they want. Perhaps they sort of have an inkling of what the final product needs to do, but they don't understand what it takes to what you need to do to put into it to create that sort of final picture. I mean, we're talking about scope creep and changes. You obviously have spoken about including the client, but have you ever had any instances where you've needed to push back and you've had to say, "Sorry, guys, we can't do that at this late stage in the game"?
Absolutely. I mean, I think part of it, it's a double-edged sword, because when you involve the client and you get the early wins, very quickly, I think the client can develop further ideas. What if we do this? What if we add that? This is working well. What are we going to do with it? What's its purpose going to be? How are we going to implement this? So very much, we've spent double the amount of time on a build that we quoted on in early stages. to get where we want it to be, just for the client to tell us that it's amazing, and now we have to do the next. So I think what we've done to avoid that is we basically offer clients options. So we offer a small, easy, kind of like a build. It includes hours, but we don't really cost on hours. We cost on your required output and your budget. So we can build a real workable framework quickly and cost effectively, but that's where it ends. And we really put the deliverables at the forefront of that, so that when we meet the deliverables, there's no questions about what needs to happen next. And then we put in a phase two, a second phase, where we start polishing it up and maybe getting it more market ready. So the first version would possibly be almost like a proof of concept ready for testing in closed testing. The second version would be more a live testing, polished version that finishes at market ready after testing. And then we've got the full build where we basically make it market ready and allocate all the payment systems and the payment portals as well. But what we try and do is we try and stay away from testing. Client testing is, I think, something that is very important. And as a developing partner, we don't always understand how the client needs to and wants to test his project or his outcome. So we have a disclaimer where, we do suggest X amount of testing. Whether you use it or don't use it before you get back to us is up to you. But we try to really, really suggest not to build forward unless there's been some credible feedback to determine whether or not the next step or the next phase is really relevant or really better. Or we can go back to a couple of steps previous and maybe start making some small adjustments based on the feedback. So I think that for us has been a bit of a difficult one. That's where I see the most pushback, is when you start discussing what does your client actually expect from the software versus what do you as the founder or you as the startup expect from your software, and has it been tested? It's the classic validation issue. So that's where I see the most pushback, is fast validation, and that prompted us to say, let's give you something that's testing ready, but nothing more than testing ready, which also then eliminates the idea that I can take this testing ready project to market. So I suppose we lead the clients a little bit down a path that suits us and puts the necessary checks and balances in place, so that they don't jump over the expectation hurdles, and pass it back to us. I mean, if a client wants to build something from start to finish without validation, we would caution against it. But if they have a clear vision, a clear idea, and the budget to do it, I mean, we're not going to argue with them.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. As long as they know, what they want and they have the budget, then amazing, right?
But as founders, I mean, we've stepped in many of the potholes ourselves, so it's very easy to identify them when you speak to a earlier version of yourself, listening to an earlier version of yourself, explaining to you what they want to do. And you can very quickly identify, maybe we should consider this, or maybe we should avoid that, or maybe we must first get this in place. So, we try to guide as much as possible, but on the other hand, also, we're not your tech partner. We could be your tech partner, but we're not your tech partner. So we don't want to tell you how to run your business. We'll help you to facilitate how you would like to run your business. In the process, we'd guide with best practice from our own experience. But I mean, everybody wants to, I think, to get to their goals and get to their little benchmarks as quickly as what they can. And I mean, we are there to facilitate it. I think without building, crap that is just useless, but it works well.
Let's turn our attention onto SmartMove. What motivated you to build it? How do you see it differentiating in a sort of crowded trust verification space?
I'd like to start with the crowded trust verification space, because it is a large space, and it's got very small players and it's got massive players. So firstly, I think my own experience of getting scammed online is what sparked the idea of the question was, how do I know if I'm landing on a legitimate site? There's no real indicators, and even the accepted indicators can be faked or manipulated. So I think in our experience, we wanted to build something that you could very quickly interact with a URL, an ad site that you maybe find on social media or wherever, to determine whether or not it is the real deal or if it's not the real deal. And the purpose of that is, we have found in our research and in our experience that the scamming industry is actually more effective than the e-commerce industry. If you give a bunch of scammers an idea, they will execute it better than actual companies trying to achieve the same. So the websites that's being created, the ads that's being created, and the way that they're being created and curated and triangulated is actually far better than most marketing organizations can do. If to give you an example, once you click on an ad that you find on social media, you'll probably be bounced around 6 or 7 or 8 more scam sites to create trust, to create a sense of security. So you often don't just interact with one scam site, the first scam site, or let's call it the entry portal, the entry URL, can scam you very much, but they often lead you to further good deals. So by the time you get to the 5th or the 6th good deal, you've been down the rabbit hole for long enough to think that you're in good hands. So the triangulation of scams is actually quite significant. It's impressive. And we just wanted to check that entry node. So we created a system where you put in a URL, or you copy in an ad URL that you find, and then it starts running multiple checks on it. The checks include, does it actually have a complete security certificate branch? Does it have all 3 the security certificates in place? Because it can be faked. You can actually create your own security certificates and put your little lock on your website. It doesn't have to be regulated. So we check for that. We check the URL for blacklistings. We check it for reputation. We check it for age. We see if it's bouncing between IPs to try and avoid being reported for bad behavior or for scam-like behavior. We check the owner of the URL to see whether or not they have been involved with any kind of malicious activity on other sites. We check the origin of the website, in which country is that site actually being hosted, because certain countries have very lax or no laws when it comes to e-commerce regulation. And then finally, what we do is if we do deem or find the site to be legit, we don't deem it to be legit. We actually, we just put it through a lot of scans, and if it does still come up, then we take it and we go and check for ratings on the site from actual users, and then we aggregate those, and then we can say this site actually does exist. It's a local site, which means it doesn't really have any kind of international attention or ratings, but it's a legit site. Or we can say this is a legit site, and here's maybe X thousand ratings out of 5 to give you feedback. So that's what we try and determine is, first of all, is it legit? And second of all, if it is legit, what do other users say about it? And to be quite honest, what we found is that most websites are actually very, very low in trust. Even our own website, when we checked our own URL, we kept on failing. And we couldn't understand why. We kept on coming up as a failed website or a scam website. And then we figured out, and again, this is what you find out after the fact, that your web hosts, they share IP addresses between many different URLs. And if one website gets blacklisted or reported, then every single URL on that IP address basically gets the same rating. So our website with our host kept on failing because our host shares IP addresses, and they had a couple of dodgy websites that shared our IP address, and we actually had to, with quite a big to do, we had to get our own IP address to just get out of that blacklisting or that malicious report. So one of the things that we do look at now is that we've added later is we actually download the URL in the process, we sandbox it, and then we check it for embedded malicious links or activity. Again, because most sites look okay, they get hijacked, malicious software or malicious link gets embedded in them, and the owner's none the wiser.
What does SmartMove look like from an end user's perspective? Are they engaging it via an app? Is it a Windows extension? They plug in the URL. All of this investigation happens in the background. How quickly does the result get turned around for them?
At the moment, it's in a PWA format or in web format. We haven't turned it into the app just yet. We still want to give it a little bit more time and user testing and create a slightly larger user base before we turn it into an app. PWA can easily be downloaded onto a phone as a shortcut, so it does actually work as an app if you know how. And on the website, we do explain how to do it. But if you put a URL in, you should get a reply within 30 seconds, and it basically just says to you the website is safe or the website is not safe. And then there's a bit of further information if you want to go and look at it. Who's the host? What's the age of the website? And what do other people say, or how do other users rate the website? If that information is available, and that information we get from Trustpilot and SiteJabber and Google. So we can give you feedback and ratings about the site if it does exist, but smaller, like local companies, they're not rated on Trustpilot, they're not rated on SiteJabber. So, often local companies, and that for us is very unfortunate, is if you want to look at somebody's local store selling, I don't know, soap online, you're not going to get any ratings based on what we have. I think, we hope to possibly in the future speak to the likes of Hello Peter to see if we can jack into their reviews for local sites. But up until now, we haven't had the opportunity to do so.
And are there any reliability thresholds that it needs to meet to win over trust?
Yes, it does. As I said, it's first the first port of entry is, does it actually have a user certificate? If it does have a registered user certificate, it's past the first threshold. Then we look at an aggregation of circumstances. Has it been blacklisted? Immediately fails if it's been blacklisted. Has it been reported for malicious activity? What kind of malicious activity? And we do an algorithm to give us a score. The score is not visible to the user. The score is for us to aggregate whether or not it meets the threshold. But the score is calculated based on what kind of malicious activity was engaged with. Is it phishing, or was it just pop-up ads? The one is malicious and the one is annoying. So we look at it from that perspective. But I mean, it immediately fails if it's been blacklisted, if it's been reported for embedded malicious software, if it's been reported for any scam software, if the IP address has been reported for any kind of malicious activity in the past, if the site has been used for parking, if the site comes from certain countries or are hosted on certain servers or on certain service providers, we immediately fail them because they are very likely to have a combination of issues with them. So we never look at just one issue or fail. The only singular issue that we fail a website on is if it's been blacklisted or if it doesn't have a security certificate that's been registered. But for the rest, it's normally a combination of bad looking parts. When you look at for instance, if you look at a website, you can spot whether or not it's been curated to deceive, or whether it's been curated to sell. And just to give you a very, very, very easy tip to look at, often the links on a scam site doesn't work. Only the links will work that drive you to some sort of a pay portal, but the other links, like the contact us, they'll be either not working or they'll be very vague. And one of the things that was very counterintuitive that we picked up is scam sites have an extremely attractive return policy. If you buy it and you don't like it, we will pick it up, we will pay you back, no problem, no hassle, no issue, no nothing. So the psychology of how websites have been curated to scam people, as I said, is it's even better than what the marketing teams does with e-commerce sites. And simple check is go and check how well that return policy has been curated to make you feel like, if I don't like it, I can just send it back and get my money back the same day. So what we normally suggest is also, even pay portals are not always safe. So PayPal, very safe, pays you back. Credit cards pays you back sometimes, not always. A debit card works well. At least the scammers can't take your money after the fact. So the knock-on effects, scammer's not just going to take your money, he's going to sell your credit card details to the next guy that's going to use your credit card details for a different thing. So it's a very, very tricky world when it comes to scams. And that's why I think checking for a scam for us has become very important. However, we have noted that the impatience and the requirement of immediate satisfaction, I think in the current generation, your I don't quite know what they're called, but the call it the 24 to 44s. Their appetite for risk is higher than their appetite for checking. So the time that it's going to take me, 30 seconds that it's going to take me to check whether or not the site is actually good or bad, doesn't actually stack up enough to say that, well, if I get taken for $1,000, I mean, I tried. Was it good? If it worked, it worked, and if it didn't, then so what? And that's where we found the biggest obstacle with the world of online security and the world of scam sites. I want to be blunt and say people don't care. They assume it's part of the risk of shopping online for now. And we are really battling with that kind of institutional understanding of, if I shop online, I could get scammed, and it's just part of the game.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, I think, if you burn your fingers once with the scam, and as you say, you lose $1,000, like, okay, geez, lesson learned. Let's not do that again. But if you burn your fingers, 4, 5, 6 times, and each time it costs you $1,000, surely you learn your lesson. I mean, that sort of segues really nicely into my next question around, scaling SmartMove. I mean, what do you see as the biggest friction points? Is it technical? Is it adoption, or is it trust?
I think scaling and adoption, or I think adoption first and scaling second. The online, I think the malicious online market, or the malicious scam market, is massive globally. So SmartMove is a global product. It's not curated for a particular geographical location. So adoption is very difficult because, again, the last thing on your mind when you impulsively want to spend some money is to stop and find out, should I not? There's a little clock in the corner saying that you've got 10 seconds left before you lose this deal. So I think adoption for us has been problematic. At the same time, we do have quite a few users that use it regularly. Local users, we haven't really reached out too much globally with our campaigns. And the feedback that we're getting is that it really works, and it's really saving people money. We've got a lot of use cases where people just quickly check because they remembered. But it's that institutional habit of not checking that's causing it not to get the traction that we were hoping for early on. We thought, I think, like most good marketers and salespeople, that if you put something really practical in front of somebody that could save them money, then they would very much want to use it. But it just seems like we are fighting that institutional lack of care, or lack of understanding that you do have tools to quickly check, or I think the implicit trust that it won't happen to me.
So if we zoom out and look at Chainwave Tech from a client acquisition perspective, what channels are currently delivering your highest quality leads for you?
We haven't really engaged on that much. We've got a new product that we are planning to launch at the end of this month. If you do give me a moment, I'll give you a short explanation of what that is. And now we are actually engaging specialists to help us with the outreach. I think myself and my partner Richard, we've realized that every time we want to do something new, we have to learn how to do it. And up until now, we've had the time to learn how to do it and become relatively good at it. But this time around, we're just not good at outreach. We're not specialists, and we don't have time to go and become specialists. We want to get our products to market faster. So now we're engaging with specialists, and we are, putting a lot of our trust in them to be able to achieve the results and the goals that they set with us. And for the first time now, we are doing that with a partner. to launch our new product, which is called Labour ZA, and it's a product for the South African labour market, and it basically takes all the hassle out of how to deal with workplace issues and discipline. So you pop in your workplace scenario, and you get a complete roadmap of how to handle it, how to address it, the templates that you need, the manuals that'll tell a layperson how to actually approach the situation. So we take you from nothing to everything in one go. And the idea is that smaller workforces just don't have the budget, or they don't have the human resources to deal with workplace issues successfully or correctly or even efficiently. And this just places them in a position where they can just input the scenario, and then you have a labor expert on the back end that creates an entire roadmap with all the different forks that you could want to walk down with all the different solutions. So it's kind of like one of those books that we used to have where, if you want this to be your outcome, then you turn to that page. And if you want this to be your outcome, you turn to that page. So we take you through all the solutions and all the scenarios, and we give you one complete roadmap. And as I said, it's backed up with the templates that you need, and it's backed up with the walkthrough manuals that a layperson can understand to turn themselves into the person that feels equipped or confident to actually achieve the desired result for the employer while staying completely fair and transparent to the employee.
Super interesting. I mean, I'm sure that'll do super well. I'm quite keen to dive into these partners that you mentioned that are assisting you with your go-to-market strategy. What are they helping you with? You've obviously got some eyes on the channels that they're going to be using. What does that project look like for you?
I think traditional channels. I think we are in the process of trying to identify the client profile. We haven't dived into the nuts and bolts with them yet. As I said, the product's probably going to get launched at the end of this month, so we hope to start in the next 2 weeks to start the client understanding journey, or the client profiling journey. But I do think that it would be for the South African market. So we will look at, I think, cold outreach to South African companies, as well as LinkedIn, and then relying a lot, I think, on our partners database as B2B marketing and outreach companies, relying on their infrastructure to assist us with our requirements, and trying to I think meet again a critical mass when it comes to sign up and traction for the products to be tested thoroughly so that we can scale them.
After your initial MVP, you created an app or a website or a product for a client. What is your process in terms of keeping clients engaged thereafter?
We haven't had a lot of those, and we're in the process of potentially building a lot of those. And we are looking at opportunities with local institutions that work with founders, whether it be mentoring them, whether it be assisting them, whether it be training them as part of a cohort, or just part of a let's call it a larger project, and actually engaging with them to assist them to become builders if they're not. So engaging with them to start adopting some of the tools that we're familiar with, doing courses on those tools. And with that, we build an entry point into potentially marketing ourselves to them as a company or individuals that can assist them with their project. So we call it like a bit of a build with you. We show you how to do it, and if you do like the concept and the idea, then we can partner with you and we can build with you. When it's a build with you project, again, we don't go further than the MVP stage, and a lot of that relies on the partner or the client. But often what we see there is we do create a longer term link where we then keep engaged, and we, as let's call it as the expert partner in the background, or as the teaching partner in the background, we then create a relationship going forward in terms of support, as well as expansion, and then including any additional projects or any new projects that the companies or the affiliate companies then want to look at. So it's just a case of establishing ourselves initially through whichever channel we can to assist, and then that assistance has been very successfully taken up into larger projects, further projects, and then additional automations or even full build projects.
So it sounds like there's a lot going on, a lot of exciting things in your future. I mean, assumingly that's going to be one step in your growth as a company. You want to be scaling your footprint, and as that demand grows and as you scale, what sort of roles or skills are you looking to hire for?
The first set of skills that we would need would be to get some permanent and some contract developers for our team. As I mentioned, we're looking to contract a sales team at this stage to help us with the outreach and closing the sales. But I think just from the amount of traction that we've had and the amount of goodwill that we've seen through successful projects and the way that we address those projects and build those relationships, we're just running out of hours. So we need to fill it up with some developers that I think fit into our team, fit into our profile, our company culture. We see ourselves as a small band of pirates, and we don't necessarily follow the rules, but we follow the ones that we believe are fair and just and should be followed. We're not malicious, not breaking any rules, but we don't follow the traditional forms of, I think, how to go about this. We don't like the corporate structure at all. We want to work with people that see, I think, the world, clients, projects, and relationships the same way we do, and that is, we want to work and deal with people that have a similar vision, culture than to us, because we get the best results. So we're not necessarily chasing team members or business partners or clients that have a very different way of viewing the world in terms of how to build relationships and how to execute, I think, operations in a relationship. So if we have a clash of culture, I think we'll rather walk away. We understand that we can't please everybody, but it's not hard to find, I think, rogues that have the same vision as us when it comes to especially building software and building software fast with their own unique ideas of what has worked in the past. And then, as I said, is at the core of that is building the relationship with the client, because you will always get more engagement and more opportunities from a successful relationship rather than from a successful build.
Now, obviously hiring the right people is important, but how would you preserve the agility and the mindset of a small, scrappy team of pirates, as you say, as you scale? How do you hold on to the sort of core company culture as the team grows?
We have a structure in place at the moment where we all know what needs to get done, and we all understand what falls within our responsibilities and purview. And we take enough time to assess how that fits into each other's roles. So what do I need to do so that you can continue with what you need to do, so that I can continue with what I need to do, or vice versa, so that we can get to the end. So we have a very close relationship, but we work separately a lot. And when we get stuck, everybody jumps in and solves the problem. Because often, if I understand what I need 2 steps from now, it could potentially be helpful if my partner or my builder's stuck right now, so they can understand where they need to go. So I think that is for us being very successful is understanding our roles, our expertise, understanding what we can and what we can't do, and then just balancing those out in a very, very nice harmony so that we keep momentum going. And if we get stuck, as I said, is we all stop what we're doing and we solve the problem, because if one person gets stuck, we are probably going to fall behind in later stages. So again, we don't work necessarily on a normal daily structure. We work on what do I need to get done and by when, and I'll make sure that gets done. And I have exactly the same support from whoever's part of that project or that build at that stage in time, and that works. So that's the kind of culture that we're looking for, is responsibility in your expertise, understanding what you can and can't, and how that fits into the team, and how the team then fits into the project.
If you look at Chainwave as a whole, what would you say is working really well within the company? And on the flip side of that, as a follow-up, what's not working well? Where are the consistent frictions?
All right. I think what's working well, uh, we learn fast. We do the hard things, and we don't shy away from the hard things. We rather take the time to learn and understand how to do them than try and find the workarounds that's going to give us a suboptimal result. So that works for us. We always make the time to figure out what to do and how to do it, and then we get it done. And then we've built on the skill set, and we've got a new little knowledge base that we can leverage going forward, and that we can possibly work into the next project to make our lives easier. We've got a very dedicated and a very focused office environment. If you do what you do, you need to do it for value. The small things matter, and the devil's in the details. And we all have the same mentality when it comes to that. When it comes to what's not working well, as I said, is the learning curve has taken a little bit of a dive in terms of our capacity and requirements of the amount of time that we have available and the projects that we have looming. So I would very much like to alleviate some of that time pressure and go back to understanding and learning what we currently have to outsource and become more of an expert in that, so that we can add that as part of our offering and as part of our skill set. So that at the moment for me is a bit of a frustration, is that we like to learn and do ourselves and become experts fast. And at the moment, we just don't have capacity to do that. But again, on the flip side of that is we get to meet some really amazing people and see how they can contribute to the team. So I think it's more of a personal what's not working than a company restriction.
And if we look ahead, William, you've obviously got a product launch that's on the cards in the next couple of weeks. Beyond that, though, let's say in the next 12 to 18 months, what are some of the strategic objectives and goals that you guys are chasing?
We are looking at a larger partnership with a local institution. I cannot elaborate too much on that right now because it's currently in, we in talks with them. But I think that will give us access to a lot of what we love to do and a lot of what we do well at the moment. And that is work with founders, work with smaller companies that want to learn and they want to test fast so that they can establish themselves for potential investment or for investment opportunities with angels. So we're looking forward to a potential relationship that will put us as a partner to a lot of those companies. And that's what we do well. We can do that fast. Is we can take you from idea to result in a very, very quick space of time, with your involvement, preferably. But as I said, is that excites us. Is sharing the knowledge, being the guys that we needed a year ago. We found the guys that we needed. They really helped us. They went out of their way. They taught us quick and fast. It was a massively steep learning curve. And I think we came out the other side, different people, different team. And we see the value of that for any startup in the tech space. And we really want to share that knowledge. But, wanting to share that knowledge and having the ability to share that knowledge are two different things. So we might get the ability to be more involved with teams that are younger or companies that are younger that kind of like needs a bit of a tech partner, but not a strategic tech partner, just a tech guide.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I think the partnership will hopefully open up a couple of more doors for you. If our listeners and our viewers want to connect with you, reach out, get a hold of you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Website, chainwave.com, my email address. I'm sure you'll share it, but it's will@chain-wave.com. And as I said, is we always keen to meet new people and explore new adventures.
Well, Will, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been a very interesting conversation, diving into your products and the company in general. I wish you every success with the upcoming product launch as well as the pending partnership. I hope that it yields much success for you guys.
Lawrence, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you so much for taking an interest in our company and what we do.